ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So this morning was utter chaos. Actually, it still is chaotic. So if you hear things being destroyed, thrown around, tossed in the background, loud bangs, screams, it's just my daughter getting ready for school. Yeah, I don't know why I suggested this time of day to record, but see, I have my aunt here from Australia. She's visiting from Australia. Mm-hmm. She arrived yesterday, so she's trying to sleep. She has jet lag, and I'm trying to keep my 16-year-old daughter on an even keel this morning. Which is, if you're a mom of a teen girl, you know that's, you know, it's like running, or it's like walking the gauntlet. You know, it could go either way. And things fall apart quickly. And then, of course, as she's leaving the house, she forgets her wallet, and she realizes it's in her dad's car, and her dad is on the way to work. And so I call him and I say, you know, Kristen's forgot her purse. Can you drop it off at the school? And he says, no, I'll just meet her on the road somewhere. Okay, well, that's just like so random and stupid.
Yikes.
Like, what? How is that going to work in rush hour traffic? And, you know, my daughter doesn't have like the best driving skills to begin with, never mind to safely pull over in rush hour traffic. So he's on the phone. Where is she? How far away is she? Where should I meet her? What, at the corner of what?
My.
I'm like, I don't know. You guys just deal with it. I'm leaving. I have a podcast.
There you go.
Oh, plus it's like going to be 100 degrees here today. And
oh, no.
So she's trying to figure out what to wear. And oh, Lord, I'm telling you. There needs to be a reality show about teenagers getting ready in the morning. Who can survive? Parents or kids?
Yeah, that is difficult. We're having that patch of weather here in New Jersey where one day it's like 90 degrees and the next day it's 60 degrees. So people are constantly wearing inappropriate clothing. You're either dressed too warm or too not warm enough. Mm-hmm. And it's also known as the time of year when everybody gets sick. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So teenagers getting ready here are really confused.
Yes. It is.
But yesterday I wore my tank top. Why do I have to wear a sweatshirt today?
Exactly.
Well, in our house, it's like, I know it's really hot, but do you think you should put a little bit more clothing on?
Oh, no.
You know, it's California.
Yeah.
So let's just say there is no dress code going on.
Do kids still say, yes, Mom, I will wear all this clothing and then go to school and put it all in their locker and wear their
Well, no, they don't
shorts or
have
whatever?
lockers here, so it's
Oh,
like
they
what
don't?
you wear is what you wear. Yeah.
Wow.
So
They have big backpacks to put things in?
yeah, and they're like literally my daughter weighed her backpack and it's close to 30 pounds. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
It's huge. So
and what gets me is that both of my kids bring home transfer back and forth every day these huge backpacks filled with books and notebooks and heavy things, and then they do all of their work on their Chromebook. I'm like, why are you hauling all this stuff? You never ever even take it out of the backpack ever. So what?
Yeah. It drives me nuts.
I don't get that.
Anyway.
Well, speaking of driving us nuts, we have many topics along those lines today, but we'll say at this point, hello and welcome to Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, complaining about, and being driven nuts about right now. I'm Terri Morrow, and with me today are Nicole Eridix.
Hello.
And Catherine Haleko.
Hi.
Today on the podcast, we're going to talk coffee habits on our Friday speed round. We're going to shout out some stuff we like on the Roundabout Roundup. We're going to hear an interview with author and mom Amy Silverman, and we're going to do some shameless self-promotion. But first, money, money, money. Nicole,
or lack
what do you got to say about this? Or lack thereof?
Yes, well, when you're a parent of a teenager and a 21-year-old, there is no such thing as money.
When you were buying everybody cars more than once.
Yes. So we're talking about kids and money, and what do they know about it, and what do your kids know about money, and when did they know it, and do they have a debit card, or are they using the bank of mom and dad, and what age did they start becoming sort of pretend responsible for their own money?
Pretend responsible, yes.
Terri, tell us about your kids and their money habits.
Yeah, well, both my kids have debit cards linked to accounts that have money in them that at this point they have earned, which is nice. I think we started them on debit cards when they went to college, so they would be able to buy things, buy their lunches and things like that. And it's gone well. I don't think there have been any crises. Occasionally, I think at one point my daughters went down below the point at which they started to charge a fee. But we then jimmied things around and put money in our savings account so that wouldn't happen. But they've done pretty well with it. And I have really, really, really liked them being able to be independent with money. To be able to go pay for things themselves. My daughter will decide that she needs something from the store and she will go and get it, or she will decide she wants to go out to lunch, take herself out to lunch and go and do that. And we don't have to be constantly funneling money over. So that has been successful. If I had it to do over again, I really like the idea of kids having their own money to spend earlier on. We never really did allowances. We did iTunes allowances, and that's all they wanted at that time, so that was fine. But I could see where, at least at the high school level, it would be convenient to have them have plastic to go spend. But then that would have to be withdrawn from the bank of mom and dad. Mm-hmm. Although they had summer jobs, so maybe not. But, I find generally they're responsible with money. My daughter does spend money in a way that drives me crazy sometimes, but it is her money, and therefore I can't complain about it too much, although I do. I would like to teach the philosophy of delayed gratification, and I have not been very successful at that, I don't think. I lecture on it frequently, however. And my daughter nods her head, and she goes, yes, Mom, and then she goes and spends $80 on iTunes. So part of it is at the point that I am not at a point in my life where I have a ton of discretionary income. And so seeing somebody else with it makes me slightly crazy. But that's my issue and not hers. What about you guys? Do your kids have debit cards, or do you give them cash, or how does that work?
Catherine?
Well, they don't yet have debit cards. I have recently. My daughter went on a trip with a friend and the friend's mom. So I gave her a little bit of cash, and I also gave her a prepaid Visa card.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which, it's a little painful because it costs, there's a fee to buy it. Mm-hmm. But then I felt like she had a credit card that she could use as needed, just so I wouldn't have to give her a lot of cash.
Yeah. And what's nice about those also, because I gave my daughter one when she was in high school, when she went on a band trip, is you can go on the website and you can trace all the purchases being made. So, okay, she had lunch. Good. She ate lunch. Oh, they went to this place. Oh, she bought a souvenir. That's nice. It's like the GPS, the money version of the iPhone GPS.
Yeah.
So true. Especially when you're a mom of a son.
Yeah.
And my daughter does want a debit card. We haven't quite just gotten around to getting that for her yet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would have, she's not real clear on the concept. Like she has received checks. Like she did a little bit of teaching skating, and so she has a couple checks from that, and I keep telling her, like, you need to sign this and give it to me so we can deposit it. Yeah, but I want a debit card. I'm like, these things are not connected. Like they're connected in that, once the money goes into your account, then you can use the debit card to get it out. But you don't need to have a debit card to make the deposit. And just yesterday, one of her coaches and the coach happens to be an accountant for her day job. We were trying to explain, like, and her coach said, they expire. A check, like it's not good forever. Eventually it will no longer, you can't cash it. And she said, oh, really? Like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. So we need some more education is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we got, my son being older than my daughter, so we went and got him a teen debit card.
Mm-hmm.
So in Canada, they're quite common. Most banks give out these debit cards. They're not even teen debit cards. It's just a debit card. And so when we moved down here, so he had one in Canada. And then when we moved down here, I think only Wells Fargo was offering a teen debit card at the time. So we got him one.
So what makes it a teen debit card? Like, does it have special protections or?
Honestly, I don't remember. I think it's the lack of charges. I think there's...
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it's tied to your parent's account or something in some way.
No. The parent is the guardian of the account, but I think there's something to do with the charges. I don't know. I can't even remember at this point, honestly. So then he had that because, after school he would, especially when he started driving at 16, he needed to get gas, wanted to go to Baker's with his friends. He wanted to go to In-N-Out with his friends, so and he had a job, which he funneled money into. So he has a checking and a savings. And so we encouraged him to put his money in savings first and then pull out like $20 a week or $30 a week for gas and incidentals. And it was great because I could keep track of where he was and what he was buying. And even though he didn't know that, and he doesn't listen to this podcast, so I feel safe about saying that. And then, so of course my daughter saw that when she was younger, and so she always wanted her own debit card as soon as she could. So we went and got her one just before she went to high school, and so she has. It's great. I love it because if I need her to stop at the store on the way home to pick up something, she will, and then I'll just pay her back. Nice. And so it just gives us a little bit more freedom for them to do things. And she gets her own gas. And so that's kind of how it works in our house. Oh, and then then the third part of that story is that somehow my son has sequestered a copy of my credit card. And we initially gave it to him when he first started university because it was his gas card. And somehow he's just kept it. And every once in a while, there'll be a random charge on it for, like, I don't know, Chipotle's or something. So, and I keep meaning to get it off him, and then I think, but if there's an emergency. Like when he had his car crash, for example. Right. So,
that is good.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we deal with it. But we're pretty open about money in our house. Like we often talk about, because I know that when I grew up, like my parents never talked about money, ever. Like it was not I didn't learn any skills.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I go back and forth on that. It's like I want to talk about money and I want them to be aware that, there is a finite supply and that you need to manage it well. And here are all our expenses for the month. And, here are, here's what's coming in, here's what's going out. You see the problem. But then at the same time, I don't want the kids to feel stressed about it. I don't want them to feel guilty about it. I don't want them to say, okay, that's all right. I don't need to buy that thing at the grocery store. I want them to feel feel comfortable, but at the same time, understand that we do not have all the money in the world, and therefore, this is why we have to work, and this is why we, have to save and things like that. How do you balance that? My parents never talked about it either. It was my dad handled everything, and it was not talked about.
Right.
I feel like I talk about it too much.
Well, I mean, I think your kids certainly see you working, you know?
Yes. Well, yeah, and when they say you work too much, why do you work so much? I feel like, let's sit down.
Yeah.
Let me show you. Let me show you our checking account. You see?
Yeah.
See what's going on
works?
here? Let's look at the credit card statement for the year just passed that has everything in categories. You know, when you go to the grocery store every day for one little thing or another, it adds up, folks.
Yeah.
But then I feel like my kids would say, oh, well, it's my fault that you work so much and I should never want anything. And I don't want that either.
Yeah.
I just want an understanding of the way money works. And have you guys found a good way to do that?
Well, we kind of had a real life experience that my kids went through, and they saw what it's like to be in real financial dire straits and then have to move countries to solve that problem. There was a time when we were working and doing well, and then my husband was running a business, and it went south, and so he was out of work, and then they saw me work 3 jobs to keep things afloat, and then they saw him apply for jobs to get us back on track, and you know, the job that was the most, you know, the one that was going to kind of get us out of what we were in was the one down here in California. So we moved here because of financial reasons, and they saw us go from one lifestyle to another, and then so I think they have a strong sense of what it's like to have to work and do what it takes to survive and make sacrifices. And okay, I would not recommend that at home, kids. Do not go through that same experience. But I think in our situation, it's a little bit more unique, and my kids really saw firsthand what it was like to go through really major financial hardships. So
we've had a little bit of that same thing, except lacking that bounce back at the end. We're still waiting for that.
Yeah. Well, so you got to move countries for that.
It's like, I don't want my husband to feel guilty either, because it's not his fault what happened, and he did get another job, although it was not, you know, at the same level, and he's trying his best and he's doing everything he can. So I don't want to make a big deal of, well, we used to be able to do this because your dad was making this much, but now we can't because it's, you know,
there's no
he already feels bad.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be a partner at that point. Like, you can't blame them, right?
Yeah,
like,
no. And it's, I mean, I don't blame him. I blame the bleepity-bleep company he worked for.
Yeah.
But
you have to be partners. You can't be adversaries in those situations.
No. So it's, you know, this is what we do. We all work together. We all pull together to make everything okay, and we do what we can. In my case, that's, you know, 17-hour days.
Yeah. Well, that was, I worked 3 teaching jobs one year, so trust me.
Yeah. Well, it's the same situation. You know, the one of you that can add more work adds more work.
Yeah. How about you, Catherine? Have you?
Well, we've been lucky enough to not have to move countries. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Terri. It's a fine line between, like, it's your fault that we need to spend this money, and you know, we're a family, like, we have expenses and we share them, you know, so that's the lesson I hope we can teach. But sure, it's really hard. I mean, it's hard for kids to get that. And, you know, my daughter's very aware of how expensive skating is, because I do let her know, you know, I mean, because sometimes, once in a while, she's really very good about it, but once in a while she'll be like, oh, I just don't feel like going today. I'm like, you realize if you don't go, we are still paying for the ice time, and we're still paying for the lesson that you're not going to get, because you can't, your coaches are going to charge for that, and they have the right to do that because they can't fill in that time at the last minute. So she, you know, she's like, when she wins a little tiny financial prize for skating, I'm always like, I would take that, please, because it will cover like 1 hour of ice time.
Yeah.
Well, Wow. Well, all this talk about finances, I need another coffee.
Yeah, we thought that speaking of when were your kids old enough to have a debit card, maybe perhaps a related question is when did they start drinking coffee? And this is our Friday speed round. So when we said we were talking about coffee habits, we meant kids' coffee habits. Because I, for one, don't drink coffee myself. But
that's true.
Does your daughter will occasionally do like mocha from Starbucks. And that's the one spending thing of hers that I do monitor because she has a Starbucks gift card that like an app, on the app that automatically renews out of my PayPal account. So I get an email every single time she reloads it. But she tends to not get coffee. She'll get other drinks from Starbucks. And my son is 12. He doesn't drink coffee, but there was one time that I accidentally let him get a Frappuccino that had caffeine in it because, there's some that do and some that don't. And, this was like probably 4 years ago. He's already like a super energetic kind of hyper kid. And then he drank this giant Frappuccino filled with sugar and caffeine. That was a fun day.
Oh, dear.
Goes down in the history books.
Neither of my kids drink coffee or are the least bit interested in it. They totally could if they wanted to. In fact, there was a time where they were saying, like, for kids with hyperactivity issues, sometimes caffeine would have the opposite effect and calm them down. So I was always kind of thinking, maybe I should try my son drinking coffee, but he was never interested. Didn't want it. So I myself came to coffee very late in my 20s, and basically just because it had no calories, and therefore it was something I could drink and not add to my calorie count for the day. And I had friends who were really, really into coffee, so it was sort of a social thing. But now, as we know, I enjoy it quite a bit. But I do seem to notice that kids are into it more now than they were when I was in high school. I think just because of the advent of Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts being such a thing. So I know I have friends whose teenagers are very into it. Yeah. How about Nicole? Do your kids drink coffee?
Okay, I just have this weird rule, and I don't know where I came up with it. But I don't want my kids to drink coffee in their teen years. I don't know where I came up with that, but I really did not. I discouraged it with my son. I think it's some stupid myth like that. And then, so my son didn't start drinking it until university, which is incidentally when I started drinking it too. Yeah. And my daughter, I don't let her get coffee-related products at Starbucks. So, I'm a stickler on that. Isn't that weird? Really? I don't know where I got that from.
I feel like that used to be the rule, though. I feel like when we were growing up, that was the rule.
Yeah, maybe
it wasn't good for kids and teenagers, and you didn't do it. It was like an adult thing, like alcohol and voting, and
plus now with Starbucks, their drinks are so full of sugar and cream, and they're just loaded with all that stuff. And I just think, okay, that's just extra. And I mean, she already eats crappy food anyway, so
but
why
it's
are we
cool, Mom? Starbucks? It's so cool.
She still gets a drink every once in a while, but it's just not a thing to do as much anymore to walk around with your Starbucks cup and take a picture of it.
Well, you can just get an empty cup,
That's
Can I have a glass of water, please?
That's right. But she knows this one girl that's been drinking Starbucks nearly every day since 6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're ventes. They're not tall. They're the largest kind that she'll bring. She used to bring one to school every morning.
Man, I can barely get through a small of Starbucks because it's so strong. I can't imagine. I guess if you got all the other crud in it.
Right, if that venti is
super frappo,
half full of milk or whatever.
Foam and whipped cream and
light cream and easy whip and oh, God. Yeah.
It's sort of barely coffee. It's like a coffee milkshake.
Yeah. So that's where my kids are at in coffee. Not allowed to drink until you're 21. That's it. It'll stunt your growth.
I should tell my son that caffeine would stunt his growth. It might slow him. I mean, he doesn't. He'll drink, like, he likes chai tea like I do, and I'll get him a short one, so it's like, 8 ounces or something. It's the tiniest one you could get. But maybe if I told him that it would
tea's good for you.
He would avoid it.
He's already got issues. Great mom.
Do you let your kids drink? Did you drink tea before they're 21, Nicole? Caffeinated tea?
It's interesting. See, that's the other dilemma, because we're Canadian, so our roots are like British Australian, and so tea is a big deal. And I drank tea in the evening with my mom when I was a teenager, but neither of my kids really drink tea or interested in drinking tea. So I mean, I would probably let them have a cup of tea because tea is good for you, but I don't know.
My husband is always saying tea has as much caffeine as coffee. It's
just
as bad for you.
A lot on which tea,
but he's judgy
you're getting
when caffeine is involved.
There's plenty of them.
That's
that
true.
Don't have as much. So, well,
yes. Anyway,
we will not be putting our kids to bed with a soothing cup of tea tonight. So that's it for this Friday speed round. Remember, you can hear a new speed round every Monday through Thursday.
It is time for us to talk about some of the things that we've read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you. Terri, what have you got for us?
Well, linked somewhat with our discussion on money, I think I have discussed here before that my daughter, when buying herself something on Amazon with her debit card, checked the, oh, sure, I would like it in 2 days box without realizing that this was their, you are now enrolled in Prime, and if you don't tell us to stop it in 3 months, we're going to charge you $100. So she waited, did not realize she had to do anything, and now she has a Prime membership for a year. So she has generously shared it with me, because I've said, as long as you have paid for it, you are going to use it as much as you possibly can. And since you don't seem to be interested in using it for much of anything, give it to me. I will watch movies and download books. Anyway, so we've been using the shipping, and by golly, I ordered something on Sunday and it was at my door Monday morning. It was like the free 2-day shipping, but it came overnight on a Sunday. So while I still don't think I would spend the money to get Amazon Prime, darned if it's not pretty good. See if you can get your kid to accidentally subscribe to it with their money. And it's a super deal.
Catherine,
that's
what
funny
have you
because
got for
the
us?
thing that I'm going to mention, I ordered on Amazon, not from Prime, but I just ordered it on Amazon, and I don't know how this happened because I swear I didn't ask for it, but it was delivered on Easter Sunday. And I felt so bad.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, I didn't mean for somebody to have to bring this to my house on Easter. Like, come on, you guys. But anyway.
Yeah, they do that now. I think they have like independent delivery people or something that do it. So I've
really
seen the truck around on Sunday.
That was not what I intended.
Just tell yourself that this was an individual who maybe doesn't celebrate Easter and was happy to get the money.
Well, anyway, so the thing that I ordered was 2 editions of a board game from Think Fun called Escape the Room. So basically it's like, those escape rooms that you can go to. It is a board game version of that. So there's 2, and there's 2 sort of different storylines. And I used these for a birthday party. And so I got 2 so that we could divide the kids into 2 groups. And it comes with like all these sealed envelopes and things. And you have to figure out different things in order to open up the envelopes. And I was a little afraid that the kids would be kind of disappointed that they weren't going to the real escape room, because I think some of them did think that based on, I tried to make it quite clear on the invitation, but anyway, they had a good time. They really enjoyed it. So Think Fun games called Escape the Room.
Well, back to Amazon Prime, Terri. That is like an essential item in my house. I've had it since its inception, let me tell you.
Really? I think we're going to get spoiled.
It has paid for itself over and over again.
I'll have to fail to remind my daughter not to let it self-renew.
And yes, and so the thing that I'm shouting at this week is a little unusual, but recently, as you know, my niece was here, and now my aunt has come. Both of her arrived from Australia, and they have both flown Qantas Airlines, which is the national Australian airline. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've flown it in the past as well, several times. And let me just tell you, it is a quality airline. If you need to go to Australia, I highly recommend Qantas. In light of all the other airlines that are maybe doing not so great a job these days, both my niece and my aunt have just been treated so well, and the quality of service has been amazing, which is not something that you hear when you use the word airline in the same sentence. And they've just had both incredible experiences, just the quality of the plane and the service and the, just the overall experience itself. So, and Qantas has been known for that over the years, just having really good, quality airline service. So a big shout out to them. And thank you for bringing my family here safely and returning them safely. So
and not beating them up in between.
Yeah. So that's it for our roundup.
Okay, and now I have an interview with Amy Silverman, who is the author of the book My Heart Can't Even Believe It, A Story of Science, Love, and Down Syndrome. So let's listen to that interview now. I'm here today with Amy Silverman, and we thought we'd talk a little bit with summer vacation coming up about that difficult transition from school into summer. How does your daughter do with that, Amy?
She fights it, and she fights school. So like this morning when I got her up, she said, I don't want to go to school. And I said, yeah, I don't want to go to work. And she said, no, I'm serious. So we have a deal that before the end of school, we're going to have a cuddle day where we're going to take a cuddle. So hopefully I can make that happen, because for us, school is out in just a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And you have to know is that we live in Phoenix, where it's going to be 100 today. It's just hell. It's like as bad as you would imagine. Now that I've lived on the East Coast, and I know that nowhere's all that pleasant in the summer in San Diego, but it's like crazy hot getting in and out of the. So that I do have to take that into consideration with her. So what Sophie does in the summer typically is a whole lot of different camps.
Yeah.
Part of why we live here in this hellhole is because I say, with love.
With love.
Is because my mom is a ballerina at almost 70.
Wow.
She's in the studio. Yeah. And Sophie, who is almost 14, and her sister, Belle, who's almost 16, take ballet and modern and jazz all the time at the dance studio.
Yeah.
And they do long camps. And so Sophie and Belle will both participate in those. Sophie will have an aide for them. And
nice.
Like Congress has acted in the last 10 minutes, which could be, or the Arizona legislature, which is equally problematic. So have respite care in the summer, so that helps. We're really at a transition point where she can do a lot of things on her own, but she needs just a little extra direction.
Right.
And because my mom's studio, I'm extra sensitive to getting special favors.
Right.
And I'm sure that she doesn't steal anybody else's thunder, particularly her sisters.
That's tricky.
And so it's tricky. Yeah. I work with her typical peers, and she is, but she falls in kind of a weird gap.
Yeah.
Which I'm not complaining about. We're lucky. It's really but it's tricky, and it changes all the time. Like with any, it does.
Sure.
They do offer programs, through the public schools. And I remember the first year we had an IEP, nobody mentioned it to me. And I got all huffy and, because I was trying to catch them breaking rules. Yeah. And I said, you didn't offer this. And they said, it's not the right program for Sophie. And unfortunately, what they offer here is so limited. It's really only for a very specific group of kids.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been right for her because she does fall in this weird crack. And so, we've gone it alone, and she loves drama. So she has participated, the ballet camps are like 3 weeks of the summer. And then we have a time to fill in. I don't know if I mentioned or not. School's out May 19th, so game on. Yeah, it gets really early. And then it's back long before Labor Day.
Wow.
That was really weird. So she'll do theater camps, and those are a challenge as well. I sent her with her aide, and I have stopped asking for permission and just started telling these camps, all right, Sophie's
That's the way to do it.
A little awkward. And nobody's ever called back and said it was a problem. One year, one of the camps tried to move her in with younger kids, and somebody made a comment about, well, she's the same size as them, and that didn't go well for them.
No.
Yeah, there was another year where it was it was like a range of ages, like maybe from 5 to 15, and she was maybe 10, and the kid asking her, why are you so, what grade are you in? Why are you so short? And, it kind of raised that issue of when you put a kid with special needs in a group with kids who don't know them, what's the best way to approach it? She's gone to the school with the same kids for many, many years. So in regards, they already know her. I did find out earlier this year that most of them didn't know she had Down syndrome or what Down syndrome was, and we dealt with that. But assuming that I'd been a better parent and dealt with that effectively, summer, you are constantly meeting new kids and seeing new faces, and I do struggle. Do you want to make a big deal out of it? Do you not?
Yeah.
Often it works to kind of mainstream her in, and she's just there. I don't see every minute of it, so I'm sure there's whispers and stuff like that, but she's never mentioned it or noticed it, and loves to perform and jumps right in. So, if we were sending her for science camp, it might be more of a problem, but we put her in an improv camp, and that could not have gone better. That really,
great.
She has no fear about jumping on the stage. So it's
nice.
It takes a lot of tinkering, and most of these camps are only a week, and so that's hard too. Then you have the issue of family vacation.
Is it stressful then for her to transition back into school at the end of the summer?
Well, sometimes, some years, yes, but she is inordinately excited for high school. Like there's never been a kid in the history of education, anyone, for any time period in any nation, who has been as excited about high school as Sophie. She has watched
great.
YouTube videos about how to get ready for high school and school supplies and things like that.
Yeah, are you doing things over the summer to kind of try to get her ready for high school, or academically, or social skills, or you're just gonna wait till it comes and deal with it then?
Yeah, she's doing pretty well academically. She's pretty much on grade level for English. Definitely not math, but she's never gonna really catch up in a meaningful way there. And I've made her do math in the summers before, and it hasn't really.
That's a good time, isn't it?
Really fair to her. We're transitioning in therapies as well. She doesn't have physical therapy anymore. I can't find an OT. And then for speech, her speech is not. You'd probably be able to understand her somewhat, but it's not perfect. But I think it's probably close to as good as it's going to get. And she and her speech therapist have actually started writing together instead. So now they're. Sophie has her own blog.
Wow. That's great.
So they'll work out over the summer, and I think what I'm mostly going to have her respite folks work on is morning routines, brushing hair on one's own, brushing teeth, getting up earlier. The biggest challenge for us is that right now school starts at 8:20, and next year school starts at 7:20.
Oh, that's a big transition.
That's going to be very painful. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lot earlier for school. So that's, but Sophie has suddenly turned from a kid who's up at 5 a.m. or up as soon as I am, looking for me when I would say when she was little, go back to sleep. So I was trying to get some work done. I'm sure you relate. He would say, nope, if you up, I up. And it's don't get me up.
Now when you need her to be up early.
All teenager
she likes to sleep.
Time. So she rolls at minutes before we have to leave the house. Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun as she gets more into teenagerdom and wants to do things with hair and clothes and makeup and it will be a challenge.
The big issue we have, we're hoping that her aide will go with her to high school. We think that she will woman's been with her in third grade, and she's awesome. But resists it a little bit. She loves her, and she loves having her, but she's been telling her teachers lately she wants to take tests on her own. Yeah, that's probably...
It's kind of like, yay for independence and self-advocacy, but no.
Well, what are you doing, Sophie? I mean, I don't care. I think her grades are I think all grades are fake, and her grades are particularly fake. You know, getting A+ in anything, you know.
Yeah. That's a pat on the head, A+.
Yeah. I'd rather she's gotten, from some of the more, the teachers who take it a little more seriously, she's got these. And then I'm like, well, all right, that's like probably a fairly accurate measure with some, you know, like for test taking, some modifications. Right.
I always felt like I would like a fair grade as long as it's passing.
Well, right. If you can't get the passing point, then it's time to figure something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not worried about, I mean, with my other daughter, you know, no one's applying to Harvard, so I don't care. It's A+. What the home ec was actually our biggest challenge in middle school, which made me mad because I don't care, you know.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. And I actually ended up saying that to the home ec teacher, who I'm sure was very offended. It wasn't my finest. But she had said, well, I know that it's really important to you that Sophie get A's. She's not getting an A right now in home ec.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wasn't my finest moment.
Yeah, that's a hard line to walk, you know?
Yeah.
When I assume she's in inclusion in her classes? Or?
She is.
Yeah. So sometimes you get people who are just hard on them, or sometimes you get people who are just nice to them and don't bother to really teach them anything. You want that thing right down the middle.
She'd had this woman more than one semester, and I finally said to the woman, like, are you done? Like, is that what's going on? I think she's done. Like, I think she's about to retire, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
She just wasn't interested. And you know, I said, Sophie has an aide. If she can't sew whatever it is you're sewing, I don't care. As long as, you know, she's doing okay and she's not disruptive in class. And if you to sew it, my God, the aide will help her do it. Like, what?
Right.
What? You know, her math teacher doesn't have any issues. Her science teacher loves her. It's interesting personalities. So
yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been interesting to hear about your summers and your upcoming high school, and I hope we'll get a chance to talk to you again.
I hope so too. Thanks, Terri.
Thanks very much, Amy.
Okay.
Bye.
And now for our final segment today, we're going to do a little shameless self-promotion and direct you to some things on our sites or elsewhere in the world that we think you should take a look at. Nicole, what do you have for us?
Oh, I haven't written much on my site at all lately.
But you're working on your book.
I'm working on my book. So let me tell you, when that thing is finished, I'm going to be promoting that every day for a year. That's all you're going to hear about.
Absolutely.
As well you should.
Trust me. It's been an adventure. So that's why I haven't been doing anything else on my blog. So sorry, people, if you're out there looking at the inclusive class and wondering why it's so lame these days and not updated, it's because I'm editing a book.
But luckily, there's plenty of material there to tide you over, right?
Yes.
How about you, Terri? Plenty. What do you have going on?
Well, my latest post up on the Friendship Circle blog is actually not particularly by me, other than the introduction. May is Better Hearing and Speech Month, and so in honor of that and all the speech therapists I've been so happy to have worked with my kids over the years, I gathered together a dozen posts by speech-language pathologists on the Friendship Circle blog that all have good advice for parents and good information. So we'll have the link to that in our show notes, and if you are interested in getting tips for helping your child with speech delays or want to read more about different problems that they could have, check that article out. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
And I will just mention a piece I did on Reader's Digest about raising girls. This one was crowdsourced. So kind of like yours, Terri, I didn't have all that much to do with it, to be honest. It just brought together a lot of really nice advice from moms of girls.
Nice.
And I had a dad comment, but I couldn't like fit him in.
Aww.
So sorry about that, Dad. Anyway, that's on rd.com.
Okay. And that is it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on parentingroundabout.com or download them from iTunes. Please subscribe so you get all of our podcasts and mini podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter, where I am at Momitude. Nicole is at Nicole Eridix, and Catherine is at C. Haleko. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram too. Best of all, stop by our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com and read recaps, find links on all the stories we mentioned, and talk back in the comments. Thanks to John Moran for providing our in and out music, and I wish everybody a great week.